Let your curiosity rise.
Matrix webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Matrix webcast, where the human spirit flies.
Hey, welcome to the Matrix webcast. Whenever I play Indian music. A little bit of introducing people to different kind of cultures. I play Chinese music sometimes. I play Italian music. I kind of like all music. Just to give an introduction to people. But anyway, let me introduce you my co-host. She is I have a tagline for her. She is everywhere, anytime, any place, any people. She trains. So she's a better looking, better talking, and beautiful and brainy. Let me introduce you my co-host, the co-host Susan Davis.
Good evening, Ramana. Thank you so very much. That tagline is something else.
I wanted to ask you a little bit. That you're doing a lot of these podcasts you're doing. I see a lot of posts. One thing I is always stuck with me is that any place, any people, anytime, anywhere, they get a heart attack, anybody, so you want to save lives. That's your true champion for that. I tell you, I wanted to, this is increasingly very something is happening in the Silicon Valley and the entire world. One is that medicine is encroaching with a lot of physics and technology. It's never there like that. Medicine is a biology, complete biology and pure medicine. Now things are changing a little bit different. The physics is coming in the front lines, so like a quantum sensors and then immunotherapies, all these new directions, new contrast media. There's a physics plays a role. When you have a nuclear medicine, physics is an important part of the nuclear physics. So any contrast you do, that's a nuclear thing. That is a nuclear thing. That is where physics come in the picture. So nowadays, that is the most important part. We are seeing that is that technology, artificial intelligence, and these are all playing. Now, this particularly one of the areas is a cancer that I'm going to play a small video that, if you don't mind, just to introduce to our people that what is a cancer. Then we'll talk everything with our guest. I'm going to introduce the guest in a minute. Let me play this video first. He doesn't need to know the video that much. He is a master of all those cancer things. But let me do this. This is a immunotherapy. That is a video. Okay. Yeah.
If it's working properly, the immune system wants to kill cancer cells. That's its job. Create an army of T cells to patrol our body for signs of infection and other diseases. The T cells inspect suspicious cells and, when they find an abnormal one, immediately lead an attack on it, while limiting the damage to healthy cells. The way they do that is pretty elegant. T cells have protein receptors on their surface, and these claw-like structures latch onto antigens, protein fragments found on the surface of all cells. When a receptor latches onto an abnormal antigen, like one found only on a diseased cell, the T cell turns on and releases toxic chemicals that damage the abnormal cell and recruit other immune helpers to the area. Sometimes cancer cells develop ways to fool the immune system, either by disguising themselves as healthy cells or by sprouting so many antigens on their surface that the T cells are stymied and can't mount an effective attack, or by finding ways to turn off the immune response against them. One innovative way to see through the deception is CAR T cell therapy. Thousands of a patient's own T cells are collected in a process similar to a blood donation, using a modified and inactive virus that can't cause any disease but can introduce genetic information into a cell. The T cells are reprogrammed so they now produce special receptors called chimeric antigen receptors, or CARs, on their surface. These newly engineered cells, called CAR T cells, are grown in a lab, and millions of them are infused back into the patient. The new receptors enable them to latch onto a specific antigen on the patient's tumor cells and destroy them.
Okay, let me. Okay, that is a immunotherapy. When they go that small, the quantum physics plays a role, particularly when you have receptors playing with it, when you have a contrast media, quantum physics come in the picture. When they have particles that you're sending them, this kind of a quantum physics is playing a role in that out of the receptors there. So there's a lot of new things come in the world. But let me introduce our guest. Is back home. Is from my back home is the neck of my woods. Dr. Sumant Ramachandra, beautiful name. All gods in one three sentence, long sentence. So he is a cancer. He is really a true global leader. He was truly highly executive levels positions in Merck and Pfizer and top-notch positions. And he is a doctor from India, and he's doctor here in Los Angeles. He's joining from us in Los Angeles, and then he's doing a lot of cancer treatments and also lifestyle medicine. Is talking about prevention and himself is a personal experience. He's going to talk about it. Let me bring Dr. Ramachandra to the table. Welcome, sir. Where are you? Oh, yeah.
All right.
Welcome to the MedBix webcast.
Good
Thank
evening.
you. Good evening. How are you?
Tell us your background a little bit, Dr. Ramachandra. You have a wide variety of background. Your background spins my head. I never seen anybody that much of a background from A to Z. Yeah, just explain to us a little bit where you came from and all those things.
Well, Ramana and Susan, thank you for having me on the podcast. Appreciate it. And as I mentioned, I don't do this often at all. So I think this may be actually my first real podcast. So let's see how it goes. So very
You're doing better than me, trust me.
So very quickly, as Raman has mentioned, I'm a physician scientist, but I view myself as a very global citizen. I was born in the UK. I lived in Nigeria, India, United States, in many different parts of those countries. So grew up quite globally. And then somewhere along the way, right at the time of high school, I came to the US permanently and did my high school and undergrad medical school and MD PhD program, which is called the Medical Scientist Training Program in the US. I did all of that at Rutgers. Went and got trained at the Mass General Hospital, which is a large Harvard-affiliated hospital for internal medicine. My PhD was in immuno-oncology, so it's always been one of my areas that I've focused on is the immune system and the cancer field. And then after that training, I got board certified, licensed, but I decided to go to industry, started my career at Merck, and then went on to other companies along the way. And I somehow ended up in companies that kept getting bought. I have been acquired multiple times, worked for Pfizer twice, worked for Merck directly and a legacy company, Sharing Plow, that became Merck, worked for Hospira that became Pfizer, worked for Pharmacia that became Pfizer. And then it was mostly in the head of R&D role since 2008. And then when I went to Baxter, I became also a commercial head for the global business. So I ran a $2.3 billion business at Baxter. I ran the pharmaceuticals business of Baxter, and also was head of R&D for all of the units of Baxter. So I had the opportunity to, in my life of being in pharmaceuticals, being in medical devices, software development for medical devices, tools and systems. So I've had my opportunity in life and been grateful for it to be in a lot of different fields. And through that, I have to say that I'm always humbled how little I know and always excited that I can constantly learn from the people around me.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Susan.
Well, that is quite a journey. It's a very diverse journey. It seems to me like there was a lot of different pivots. How did that all fit together? How does it fit together today? And secondly, does that video, I'm actually two questions in one. The very first video that Ramana played about the CAR T cells, is that a new technology? I'm sorry, I have to go back to that before I forget that.
Yeah, so the CAR T technology became commercial actually several years ago. So the technology actually of CARs, chimeric antigen receptors, was described over 30 years ago. And it was described actually at the Weizmann Institute in Israel. And they did not pursue it at that time. And then later on, years later, the National Cancer Institute and University of Pennsylvania picked up that technology and started working quite intensively in that area. And eventually, University of Pennsylvania's technology became Novartis's product, which is Kymriah. And the technology from the National Cancer Institute ended up in a company local to LA called Kite. And Kite was eventually bought by Gilead. And then there's a third company that was formed called Juno up in Seattle. And I actually worked with some of the folks that formed that company in the board position I sit in. And Juno was bought by Bristol Myers Squibb. So those three companies formed the CAR-T consortium for lymphomas. And then there was an offshoot branch that focused on myelomas. And there are one is now part of Bristol Myers Squibb. When they bought the one for lymphoma, they also did a deal with the myeloma side. But the lead product is actually one from J&J, from Legend, which is a Chinese company. It's called Carvykti. So myeloma, multiple myeloma, and lymphoma, the two areas have been tackled. And in CAR T-cell technology, the holy grail is tackling solid tumors. Can we actually make the engineered T-cells or immune cells to recognize solid tumor cancers? We've been able to recognize blood tumors up to now, and some blood tumors, and now can we recognize solid tumors? And then a very exciting piece of data came out about 2+ years ago. It came out of Germany. And in that data, they showed, they had a hypothesis. They said, well, these cells are so effective of killing B cells in the leukemia side, lymphoma side. What if they kill dysfunctional B cells that are not cancerous? What happens? Because these B cells are dysfunctional, they cause autoimmune diseases. They tested this concept. It's quite revolutionary from a clinical standpoint. It was an existing technology, and they used it in patients with autoimmune diseases. And I mean, this is hair-raising in terms of what we saw.
Is it the senescent cells you're talking about? The senescent cells, is targeting senescent cells?
You take T cells from the patient, and you basically engineer the T cell through usually a virus. It's either a lentivirus or a retrovirus, and you make the T cell express a chimeric antigen receptor that binds to the cancer cell, to a marker on the cancer cell. But that same marker, called CD19, is in B cells that are normal and B cells that cause autoimmune diseases. And you should watch these videos, and it's really unbelievable. Patients who are unable to walk due to the autoimmune diseases, in a few weeks, stand up from the wheelchair and walk across the hallway. People
Amazing.
who they had severe autoimmune disease. Suddenly, this technology moved to the autoimmune side. And this is the emerging area for this CD19 place of technology for CARs. And now people are also focused on solid tumors, autoimmune diseases. And this is just one part of immunotherapy. There are many different types of immunotherapy. CAR T cells are only one type. Very recently, there was a over $2 billion purchase of a company called Capstan, and that's in vivo CAR T technologies. You don't have to do it anymore by taking the patient's cells out. Instead, you inject the genetic code into the patient, and it changes the T cells in the body. So that's an emerging area. And then there's things like that have been around for a long time called Keytruda, for example, which comes from my old company, Organon/Schering-Plough became Merck. And Merck is now the owner of Keytruda, and that drug has transformed the lives of many patients. And that is a completely different technology. That is an antibody technology that takes the brake off the immune system, because what happens is the immune system tries not to kill your own cells, otherwise it'll kill yourself. And cancer cells are basically us. They're just bad versions of our cells. And this one recognizes it takes the brakes off. The immune system recognizes the cancer, and it's transformed the life of many, many patients. And there are other immunotherapies now in work. So when you speak about immunotherapy, it's not one category. It's many different categories. It's quite exciting.
Very good. Excellent. Very well defined. Well, it's a very closely related to CRISPR technologies also, right? That's
gene editing. Yeah, that's the other part of the advanced technologies. There is cell-based technologies and there's genetic-based technologies, and sometimes they're mixed together. But gene editing is another exciting area where you're able to cure certain genetic diseases. You're able to put certain genetic code into cells and then give it back to the patient, and they can start producing insulin, for example. They can start producing proteins that they were not producing before. So that's another very exciting area on the side of genetic editing or gene editing, using CRISPR and other types of technologies.
So I started to ask you about the different pivots in your career before. I didn't want to forget that. That was a brilliant explanation. That's just amazing. It is hair raising to see where we're going. My question to you is, this pivot here from all that wonderful science all the way to the front, to the bedside, and accessibility to all those immunotherapies, how does the person just with this recent diagnosis find out about all these immunotherapies? And is that something you feel that AI might be able to help us with, a registry of some sort where we can get that speed to these people from the time of diagnosis to the need to use these immunotherapies? And there must be so many and all over the world.
Yeah. So I will talk about access first. The world is unfair. It's very unfair. The technologies and the therapies I have access to, if I was born and in another country, not to a family that had the means, I may not have access to those technologies. So I think it's very challenging that when we talk about these technologies and we get so excited about them, we forget that most of the world doesn't have access to these technologies.
Yeah.
Okay. And even if the country does, many people in the country don't have access to technology. So the first and most important thing is figuring out, with all these advances that are happening in science and clinical medicine, how can we get them to the patient? So imagine a world where a patient gets a diagnosis. They go into an AI program, and because everyone is democratized, you can go and get free advice on ChatGPT, and usually wrong advice many times if you have the free version, okay? And if you don't ask the question the right way. But they find out that there's a certain immunotherapy that's available. And they find out, they go to their hospital, and the doctor says, I don't have access to that therapy. That's frustrating.
So
Okay.
along those lines, just as Susan asked an excellent question, access, that is, in India, there was a train going from Punjab to Rajasthan. I don't know whether you know it or not. Entire train is a cancer patients, that they go entire train. So access is the biggest problem in other countries. Do you think these new technologies, you don't need a PET CT scan or you don't need a big MRI CT scan, you can do with immunotherapy, these kind of things will, or prevention, one of those things.
Yeah.
That where do you think, you just can give us a rundown on those kind of things a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't want to paint a negative picture, but I am quite optimistic that there are change makers in this world who say this is not fair. And there is a company in India, and that company took a CAR T technology and built it the Indian way from the ground up. And they manufactured the cells for somewhere around 1/10 to maybe 1/15 to 1/5 of the cost. Okay, so they manufacture it much cheaper, the CAR T cell, and they have given access to many patients in India that did not have access to CAR T cell technology, and that's happening more and more, especially as drugs are going off patent. And you can innovate and you can make a different version of a drug. So that gives access in certain countries, but that still doesn't give access to places like Africa, for example, where you don't have access to these medicines in many countries unless you have money and you have access to physicians and hospitals that can provide this therapy. So listen, sometimes it's a cultural topic, a political topic, but I think more of it as a humanistic topic is when we talk about all of these advancements. Access is, I think, the most important word that we have to figure out, because these are all exciting, but they only make a difference because if a parent, a child, a sister, a brother, a spouse, a significant other, a friend passes away because they didn't have access, it's still sad. It's still a life. And I want to go back to Susan's. It's all these pivots, right? So I have been focused on healthcare for a very, very long time. I think I knew I wanted to be in the sciences. I started off in engineering school in undergrad and realized that I was always curious as to the exciting subjects around biology and chemistry. And so I said, okay, I want to be a doctor. And so I switched to pre-med and went to medical school. But during the time I did research, I said, wow, I love research, and ended up doing an MD PhD instead of an MD. And MD PhD, getting both the medical degree and getting a full-blown doctor of philosophy in the sciences
Excuse me if I ask you a quick question. What is your thesis on doctors in PhD?
It's actually right behind me, and so this was commissioned actually after my thesis was completed. Someone at a pharmaceutical company picked up my thesis, and he's an artist, and he drew it and he painted it, and it's an oil painting. It's a circle. It's a clock on top you can't see because all patients don't have time, and you have to always have a sense of urgency, and that's really important. So in the field we are, don't go fast to be careless. Go quickly because people don't have the time to wait. And my thesis is there. It's immunogenetics of cancer, a focus on chronic lymphocytic leukemia. You can see some antibodies back there. You can see some cytokines back there. You can see a lot of things, cells. You can see some cells dying in the back. And then hidden in there is a single item, and he hid it in there, and it's the cure. And so it's only one. It's in there. And he said, I hope you find a cure for whatever you're looking for. And it's an important aspect of my life. It guides me that my work is never done. And I think anyone who's in the field of healthcare knows your work is never done. There's just too many things to tackle, and you have to be relentless and pursue it with all your intellectual power as well as the heart.
Yeah, I would say, what would you say with that being said? What can we do? What's one thing that we can do, no matter where you are in the world, to help keep cancer at bay?
Yeah, so I believe in prevention, and so I know that it's not a satisfying answer when you have cancer already. Okay, it just isn't. But there are cancer-related things that can be done in life. Number one, there are 2 vaccines that can be administered that reduce the burden of certain cancers. One is the human papillomavirus vaccine, the HPV vaccine. And HPV is known to spread and give cervical cancer, vaginal cancer, anal cancer, penile cancer, things that are related to sexual transmission of the HPV virus. It's actually more common than people think, and including oral cancer, throat cancer. Giving adolescent children, boys and girls, the HPV vaccine dramatically reduces the risk. This is not hypothetical. This has been studied in national healthcare systems with a dramatic reduction. The second one is the hepatitis B virus vaccine. The hepatitis B virus vaccine right now in the United States is quite controversial. They're actually reviewing whether they need to give it to infants. But the reality is that you can get this through blood transfusions or sometimes sexual transmission. It's more common in East Asia than it is in other parts of the world, but it does happen. That usually links to liver cancer because due to chronic inflammation of the liver. We don't have a vaccine for hepatitis C virus yet. Hopefully in time we will, but we have drugs now that are very curative for that area. So there are certain approaches. The other big one is quite simple: stop smoking. Okay, people who smoke are going to increase their risk of cancer. Excessive alcohol consumption increases risk of cancer. Okay, and I know it's not going to be a popular topic because I used to drink wine until early this year. Okay, and I stopped. I completely stopped drinking any alcohol. Period. And not because of cancer risk, but because I made a healthcare choice for myself. And excessive alcohol consumption, and you can define what excessive is. People have different levels of excessive definition, but nowadays the World Health Organization says even one drink is excessive. Whether you agree with it or not, that is the recommendation, not even to have a drink. But some people say 2 for men, 1 for women. That sounds unfair, but okay, anyway. But let's move on from alcohol. The other one I would say is obesity. Okay, there are several cancers linked to being obese. Obesity and accumulation of fat in the body causes chronic inflammation. It's linked directly to a pro-inflammatory state in the body. And there are certain cancers associated with it. It's not 1 or 2. There are at least 13 plus cancers associated with obesity. And they're probably going to find more over time. So lifestyle modification is probably the best way to prevent things. There are certain vaccines you can take to prevent certain ones. And then just leave it, see if you can lead a good and as clean a life as possible. But beyond that, I think outside of prevention, you really have to go screening. There are certain cancers that you need screening for. Number one is for females is breast cancer. For males and females is colorectal cancer. And those are two very important ones to screen for. For men, it's prostate cancer. For women, it's cervical cancer. And going in for screening for those. So those are ones that I would say, when you go to a dentist, they should be looking around your tongue, around your mouth. For oral cancers, they should check your lymph nodes. It does happen. Head and neck cancer does happen. So screening is the other piece. And then if all of that fails, you have to go as early as you feel something. The earlier you catch a malignancy, cancer, and you can surgically resect it and treat it with chemotherapy or immunotherapy or radiotherapy or one of the therapies, you improve your chance of survival. If you catch it too late, you let it linger. I know people who came in and it was way too late. And they said, well, I really did not want to disturb my family. If you feel something, you go and you go check it out. Okay. And it's better to do that.
Check it out. And patient after patient after patient just don't. Often out of fear. They know there's something wrong, and out of fear, they don't go until it's too late.
Don't go. Yeah.
Dr. Ramachandra, I need to mention in the intro video that I did. It is a very important one for me that my hometown hero, Dr. Yellaprakada Subbarao, that he did methotrexate, first targeted chemotherapy drug, methotrexate. He invented the methotrexate in the Harvard. He went to Harvard also. That is a very, I interviewed a person from the Regeneron, the lady, so she was talking about that. Yellaprakada is contributions.
Yeah.
But Dr. Ramachandra, I wanted to ask you, what is your present, the GLP-1 drugs? What is your view on this is a new kind of a mechanism. It works on suppression of hunger and all those things. You have some, I saw your pictures. You were big in the previous pictures. Now you lost a lot of weight. Is that GLP-1 drugs are really a wonder drug, or what do you think? It is overblown, or what is your opinion on it?
But I think if one can make lifestyle modifications first and foremost, that's most important, because the answer cannot always be, I have a medicine for that. Okay. It's really important for society not to be overly reliant on a pharmacologic mechanism to cure things. And one size doesn't fit all. So lifestyle changes are probably the most important when it comes to obesity. I want to mention that GLP-1s have been around for a while. Okay. The mechanism is been understood for a while, but it was used for diabetes. Okay. So it was initially introduced as a diabetes drug. It's only when drug discovery people in companies like Novo Nordisk or Eli Lilly figured out how to make it more long-acting, and the observation that the patients that were getting GLP-1s for their diabetes were also losing weight. And they were studying all the mechanisms of how GLP-1s work, and we still don't frankly understand all of it. Okay, it's not just that it slows down the gut motility. That was their original hypothesis. It just slows down the gut movement, and therefore you feel full faster. There seems to be other things that are at play here. And there are now combined mechanisms, GLP-1 plus GIP. There's ones that are GLP-1s, GIP, and glucagon receptor agonists. And then there's other ones coming. There are things that are working on muscle growth. So they're independent of GLP. And they're for muscle wasting disease. They're being repurposed now for weight loss. So this field is going to mushroom very, very, very quickly. And one size does not fit all. I think you have to be very careful here. You have to go to a legitimate physician who understands this field, or a healthcare provider that truly understands this field. You have to make sure that you know what the adverse events are and the side effects. And you have to ensure that the benefit you're looking for is going to be far greater than the risk you face from the disease. I would say go for lifestyle modifications first and foremost. I eat a certain way. I eat certain kinds of food. I'm constantly researching it. I exercise every day now. Right after this, I'm going to go to my rucking walk. Rucking is basically heavy weighted backpack, weighted vest 30 plus pounds, and I walk, and that's a lot of weight for a person as small as I am. And I walk for 35 minutes with my wife, walking the dog, and do it twice a day. I exercise early in the morning. I eat moderately. I eat a modified Mediterranean diet. I don't drink alcohol anymore, and I'm still fun. Okay, I just want to be very, very clear. Even though I do all the stuff, I am still a fun person. But GLP-1s are then an option. He was my intern at Massachusetts General Hospital, David Shaywitz. You should check out his article. It's in Stat. David is a brilliant physician scientist. I think, his resident or senior resident, kept in touch with him. He wrote an article about GLP-1s, and one of the phrases actually really stuck with me. And it said basically...
You're talking about David Sinclair?
David Shaywitz. David Shaywitz. David Shaywitz is a fantastic physician scientist. David Sinclair is a scientist at Harvard, but David Shaywitz has been, you can check out he's written a lot of articles in a lot of areas. And he wrote an article about that GLP-1s is not just about weight loss. People gain confidence. People improve their social circles as a result. They were homebound. They suddenly are able to go out again. They change their lifestyle completely. They make more friends. And being social is a big part of longevity also, by the way. Okay. Being a recluse usually leads most people, okay, to an early demise. But it was really striking when he wrote that article, and I read it, and I said, it's so true that people gain a different perspective of themselves, okay, when they go through this journey. And whether it's through lifestyle changes or through lifestyle and pharmacologic changes, I would never recommend pure pharmacologic changes. But maybe a GLP-1 gives someone the momentum to jump in to a new lifestyle. And that maybe starts a positive cascade in their life.
So first of all, I'd like to comment on the 30 pounds that you are rucking with. That is heavy. I use 20 right now, and sometimes I'm fairly sad about it.
I have a 50 pound. I'm slowly, I'm thinking, when am I going to go to 40 and then to 50? So I do have a 50-pound vest. I bought it in advance. I was very ambitious. And then I said, I'm going to wait. I've lost, I'm now like 136 pounds, and carrying 50 pounds on you is a lot of weight. And so it's just a lot of weight. And so I'm going to do it very carefully so I don't hurt myself. But I'm at 30 pounds quite easily, actually, right now.
I think people would be surprised at what a difference adding some weight. I have a 12-pounder that I wear when I cycle, and it makes my ride very difficult.
Oh, much harder, much harder.
So I wanted to actually circle back to the GLP and alcohol. I know several people who take GLP, microdosing it under the supervision of their care team to stop the craving for alcohol. And it really does seem to help.
It does. Many people have reported that. Alcohol is an addiction. The reality is, when I first quit alcohol, every time I walked past a good bottle of wine, and believe me, we had good bottles of wine, and it was tempting.
But the American College of Cardiology did it not. What they said was alcohol is good for you. It reduces stroke incidence and the cardiovascular disease incidence. This is the American College of Cardiology giving it.
Read the most recent guidelines. It's changed. It's
yeah.
changed.
Nice try, Ramana. Nice try.
Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah.
You know, my follow-up to that is GLP-1s are a peptide. Yes. And yes. I know in longevity medicine, the peptides are going crazy. Do you have any thoughts on the other peptides that people who are on this longevity journey, on this health journey, are taking for a variety of reasons? Do you have any experience or thoughts on peptides, the others?
Yeah. So I don't have any experience, but I can tell you that things that are not approved, you have to know what you're doing to do it. Just because it's not been studied in a randomized controlled trial, checking the effects. I mean, people are doing what I think they call it peptide stacking or peptide cocktail. And they're adding things, they're taking out things. I just don't know enough to say that it's going to be good or bad for you. I do know that our body is like a rheostat. You know, those light bulbs that, those switches that you adjust to adjust the light up and down. And your body makes certain things and over time, when you get older, it slows down production of certain things. Maybe in that setting, having extremely low doses of the things your body is missing is like hormone replacement therapy for women. You don't want to go too high because the risk of certain cancers go up. But if you give enough, you get that benefit for perimenopausal women and postmenopausal women, but you don't get the side effects that are just terrible with a high dose hormone replacement therapy. So you have to find that sweet spot. But the problem is that most of the peptides people are talking about have not been studied. There's very little clinical evidence from a rigorous way, and it's all been anecdotal. And there's a lot of people promoting it. So if you're promoting it and you don't know the data, it's very difficult. And you can buy these peptides, from what I understand, as research-grade peptides off the internet. And I don't know if these are legitimate companies or not. I think there are some benefits to certain things. I just worry that we're getting ahead of things, and it could cause issues for certain individuals. Maybe not all, but certain individuals.
Let's go back to the cancer treatment a little bit, just a deviation a little bit. Your company, present company, that they do I didn't know that until I studied about you a little bit. There's a big problem, challenges in the cancer treatment is chemotherapy or radiation therapy, the injuries for the skin, injury. You have a lot of wounds and all this is a big challenge for the cancer patients. I understand through your literature. So what you are trying to develop some kind of a new kind of drugs and treatment for that. Can you a little bit shed light on that a little bit?
Yeah. So there is. I'm involved with 3 cancer companies right now. Okay, and one I'm CEO of and on the board of. One I'm on the board of, which is a CAR T cell company, and one is a basically in vivo editing company of transforming cancer therapy. It's called CancerVax. So I'm on the board of Lyle Immunopharma. They bought my previous company, Impact Bio. I'm the CEO of Lutris Pharma, and then I'm helping as the chief scientific advisor for CancerVax. So these are 3 cancer companies, very, very different technologies, all of them. So the one that I'm CEO of is what you're asking about. So there are several drugs in the market, and now many more in development, that one of the side effects, and it's a very, very difficult side effect, is that they get a papulopustular rash. That means imagine your skin breaking out in this horrible, painful rash around your scalp, around your face, your neck, your back, and your chest, because you're taking a cancer drug. In some patients, it's debilitating, and they just stop taking their medicines. They say, I can't continue. It's painful. It can get infected, and it's called an acneiform rash. Okay. It's been recognized from the beginning that when you hit certain types of targets in the cancer, this is one of the side effects in normal skin cells. And the patients who are brave enough to go through it, live through it, many times have their dose reduced, or they stop their dose for a few weeks and then come back. So they're not even optimized for the cancer care as a result of a very painful rash. So this company was formed, and it was actually the brainchild. The idea was of a brainchild of Dr. Anthony Ribas from UCLA. He's a very famous immuno-oncologist. He's actually very well known in the field of immuno-oncology. He worked on Keytruda, in melanoma. He's a melanoma doctor. But because he's a skin doctor, he noticed while he was treating melanoma with certain drugs that the skin was growing back in certain drugs. He's like, oh, this is interesting. So he went and talked to some venture capitalists, and they funded the idea. They formed the company in Israel. So the company is actually an Israeli company. I'm in the US in Los Angeles, but the company's in Israel. And they started working on drugs that were going to target this mechanism to reverse the horrible skin rash. And I'm not talking about normal rash. I'm not talking about a little itch. This is extremely painful, a burn. It feels like a burn on patients, and very painful for them. And they showed in a phase 2 trial that was presented this end of April, the American Association of Cancer Researchers in Chicago, that they were able to significantly reduce the rash in a number of patients. Okay, now that drug is going into phase 3 trials hopefully soon, once the FDA gives it okay. So we're in the midst of that right now. It would be the first of its kind to do this. There's no drug like this right now approved anywhere in the world. and it would be the first of its whole category, and the first in the indication. So that's where I'm the CEO of the company.
Brilliant, brilliant. I can't imagine that rash. And is it generally on the face and the neck? It doesn't go in the rest of the body?
Face, neck, back, scalp. And the challenge is that, I'll give you an example. So unfortunately, globally, younger people are getting cancer. And one of the cancers they're getting is colorectal cancer. It's not quite understood exactly why. Okay. They think it might be food and preservatives. It could be emulsifiers, it could be a number of things, but they don't know an exact cause. So some of the drugs I'm talking about, they work, but they're used in colorectal cancer. And in that setting, they're going to break out in rash. So when these patients are presented that this is a side effect of this, they're young, they say, I don't want to go on this drug, which is unfortunate because it's one of the drugs that, no, not the drug we're working on, the cancer drug. We're working on a drug that reduces this side effect. And we want to give options to patients to be on their therapy, the optimal therapy, whatever the optimal therapy is. And there's more of these type of drugs that cause this rash in development currently today. And what we want to do is make sure that these patients have options so that if the rash starts developing, they can get very quickly treated and stay on their therapy. And that anti-cancer therapy then can help them hopefully survive longer.
Yeah, insult to injury. Just a horrible rash, and then to stop treatment is just not the direction we're wanting to head.
Let us talk about a little bit about leadership, a little bit. On your, physician leaders. I was involved with the American Association of Physicians of Indian origin in the beginning itself, and then I was one of the leaders in Los Angeles area. Dr. Prem Reddy, I got Prime Care was one of the major system here, and I come to know during this time I met them, and there were very few leaders in the industry. That Dr. Kiran Patel and I'm talking about Indians and other ones. Some people I met them. Do you think there is something lack in the leadership, and is there any problem with the physicians? They utterly fail. To be honest with you, I don't want to be blaming anybody, but a lot of this, there is a serious lack of leadership. For example, I give you one example of AMA, American Medical Association president. He said that when he came on the AMA president took over, he said that I'm going to the liability for the technologies. I want to shift it to the technology companies, not just for doctors. Then he did that and he didn't do anything. So these are all the people that they do or reduce the cost price, reduce the the PMBs, like the medical managers, all these things they say, they fail. Where do you think you're a leader now? You are a physician, scientist, leader. Do you think we need what kind of things we need to do that? To get more leaders like you.
I appreciate it that you're pointing me as an example, but that's very kind of you. I do want to point out my wife happens to be on the link, and she's commenting on the side. You see another Ramachandra in there. She's a PhD, PhD, so it's nice of her to join. And she emphasized one thing about lifestyle changes and treating food like a medicine. I do want to emphasize that point. I actually want to thank her because whatever now I'm eating, she has made sure it's in the house. Everything, it's all healthy food for me. I'm very careful. If it wasn't, I get a lot of support, by the way, for what I do. I couldn't do what I do without my father-in-law, who I mentioned prior to this call, my wife, and others who help me really keep a healthy lifestyle. So if you have support or you can get support from someone, I think it's very important. It's very important to have a support system around you in healthcare because all of us get sick eventually, and having that loved ones around you and friends are important. So, okay, leadership in healthcare. So healthcare.
Before you comment on that, I wanted to ask you, your wife, that she wants to come on. She is more than welcome. But food as a medicine, she says that you're saying, right? In India, intermittent fasting is a big thing, and all over the place. I do intermittent fasting here. In the last 20 years, I've been doing. It's amazing. Even though I don't exercise a whole lot, that intermittent fasting is keeping me extremely good. I don't eat 14, 15 hours, one meal a day. It really works very well. Tell us a little bit about that, that food as a medicine.
So food as a medicine. So almost every supplement that you take, you can probably get in food somehow. Sometimes you can't get enough of it. So for example, if you're vegetarian, you just can't get EPA and DHA very easily. These are really from omega-3 fatty fishes, salmon, mackerel, and anchovies and things like that. And if you're vegetarian, you just can't get enough. You need to take supplements. But if wherever you can get something from a natural food source, it's much, much better, by the way. It's because it has a higher chance of being absorbed, and it's natural to the body and things like that. But again, if someone wants to take a supplement, I'm not going to stop them. Just get it from a reliable source. Many supplements, unfortunately, do have heavy metals in there, and you have to get it from sources that actually have the right type of clean supplements in there. So that aside, food is a medicine. What we put into our body gets absorbed, okay, or excreted, and I think it's important to know exactly what we're putting in our body and where it potentially came from. That doesn't mean I don't eat in restaurants. I just eat in restaurants that I think are generally clean. Okay, so I think that's important. Intermittent fasting, I believe in. Fasting in nearly every culture in the world exists. Okay, and it's actually baked into certain religions. Okay, for Catholics, it's Lent. You think about those days of fasting for 40 days, and they talk about Christ going through that period of time. Buddhists fast, Hindus do fasting, Jews fast. So there's a lot of fasting in religion, and you wonder why. And fasting was not just something that someone dreamt up. I think that our ancestors knew there was a health benefit to fasting. And so it turns out that if you cross a certain amount of threshold of time and not eating, your body goes into a process called autophagy. It just means autophagy, eating itself. And what it does in autophagy, it starts clearing out junk proteins and excess things in the body. Your cell starts metabolizing misformed proteins and other things. So this whole intermittent fasting, while people are doing this and saying, oh, I feel good, it's actually doing something at the cellular level. That's really important. So if people can do it, I've tried fasting for over 2 days. I will tell you, I did it multiple times. I had a problem coming out of the fast because it causes very, very severe GI issues coming out. And that process of coming out of the fast, when you do more than 48 hours fasting, and I felt fine. I worked. I didn't exercise, but I did work. And I felt great. I felt energetic, clear of mind. But coming out of the fast was very hard for me. So I've gone to intermittent fasting. So I do about 15 hours, 14, 15 hours, so that I get at least a solid period where I'm not eating. I ate my last meal, finished at around 5:30. I'm not going to eat my first one until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, around that time. But I want to get back to a question of leadership. Medicine is a business. There's a lot of money in medicine. Anything that's a business means it attracts players that are making money and players that want to make more money than the next party. So that's why you have in the United States so many intermediates in the system. And all they do is do a lot of pass-through. So we talked about PBMs, for example, pharmacy benefit managers. Okay, they had a role, but now they have an oversized role for some reason. And it's a big problem in our system. And it hasn't been able to be tackled. And the actual cost of the medicine that's gone from the company into the system and the actual price that the health insurance has to pay is a big difference. And it's being captured by the health insurance company and the PBMs in there. So this system has to change. But the problem is that medicine has gotten politicized. And this has been going on for a very long time. And it's even more so now. Everything's politicized around medicine at this point. And no matter what your political views are, I think you should follow the science. You should follow what is being supported by the science. And it's very important to have evidence rather than saying, this is my opinion and therefore I'm going to force it on others. Medicine does not belong to physicians as much anymore. It doesn't belong to scientists anymore. It belongs mostly to payers and to politicians. And it's a very, very difficult period where people are being restricted from doing the right things because of the way it's being managed.
Well, you mentioned Buddha just a little. This is something you wrote in one of your posts not long ago, made me think, and you mentioned Buddha. So in that description of the leadership that you just described and where we are, it makes me think about what you wrote. You said, think good thoughts,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Say good things and do good acts.
Yeah.
If we could all circle around back, then we would be
Nice.
our personal leaders, because personal leadership, right, is self-awareness times self-management of that awareness. And so
Yeah.
I really like that. Tell me, where did you get that?
Yeah, so my wife and I, early this year, well, after the company I was CEO of, Impact Bio, got acquired by Lyle Immunopharma, I was in this rut period. I was doing consulting gigs. I was saying, what's my next job going to be? And she goes, just relax. You work so intensively. The company is acquired, but my mind is the kind of mind that just can't rest. And so for my birthday, she said, hey, listen, let's figure out a place to go. She loves East Asia and Southeast Asia. So we'd never been, but we love the culture. And we said, let's get on a plane. And I said, okay, let's figure out, let's go to Cambodia and Thailand. And there were two very different countries right next to each other. And we made our way to Cambodia and Thailand. We spent about 10 days there. It's a wonderful period, actually, because you think some things about cultures and you don't. And you go there, and the people were just genuinely beautiful people, nice people. And of course, those two countries had a war recently with each other, but they're actually both very, very good countries. And it's all around the border between those two countries and the history around the two countries. But we met a lot of Buddhists, and we went to a lot of the ancient temples, hundreds of years old. And the form of Buddhism that's in Cambodia and Thailand is a Hinduism kind of Buddhism. It's actually, there's a very specific terminology there. So there's a lot of Hindu philosophy there. And my wife is Jewish, and I'm we're not religious, but she's of Jewish origin. I'm of Hindu origin, and we're embracing all religions. We learn from everything. My son is in Catholic school, and so we embrace everything. And there was someone who told us multiple times, it's easy to be a Buddhist, and you just don't even have to believe in the Buddha. You don't have to believe in anything specifically. You just have to be a good person. I said, what is the definition of a good person? He said, the hardest is think good thoughts. And it's very hard. Believe me, in my mind, probably 1,000 times a day, I'm probably thinking things that are not so great about many things in life, but I have to control myself. And then if you don't have anything good to say, why say anything at all? Okay, say good words. Say good words. Okay, if you're going to say it. Don't tolerate people walking over you or abusing you. That's not what it means. It means you can be firm, but you can be respectful and firm. You can be kind and firm. Okay, if someone is in your space and telling you and that, hey, you're not doing something good, you're a bad person, you can ask, why do you think so? Instead of saying, get out of my face and I don't want to talk to you. You don't have to do that. You can ask, and you can understand where they're coming from. And if you don't agree with them, saying, I'm sorry, I don't agree with you. I really understand what you're trying to tell me, but I don't agree. And you can walk away from that situation and do good deeds. These are the 3 acts of goodness. Okay. Do good deeds, even though it's the last one. Many people do good deeds, but in their mind, they're saying, am I going to get credit for it? Okay. That doesn't mean they're thinking good thoughts. They're just trying to get the credit for it. They're trying to say, I did a good deed. So who's going to praise me? Who's going to give me that credit? So it's very, very hard to do on a day-to-day basis. I fail every single moment of every day probably, but I try every day to be better. So, but those things, I think, in medicine or in life in general, it has to start with life. And if you can teach your own children and your own family this, and your family can teach you this every day, I think you end up becoming a better person every single day.
Yeah. So that had the theme of less is more, and it was so eloquent and so simple, and I really appreciated it. So I think it's a lovely spot to.
Well, I learned from someone. I'm always learning from people who are wiser than me.
Dr. Ramachandra, you gave a very stellar talk on cancer, on the philosophy of life and prevention. All of them beautifully. You don't have to be worried. You can be on podcast every day. You did an excellent job. I'm proud of you that you're of that origin that we came from same area, around that area. So I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for joining with us. It's truly an honor and a privilege to have you.
Thank you, Ramana. Thank you, Susan, for your time and inviting me on the show. Really appreciate it. And thanks to the audience for listening in.
Yes, the honor was ours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good night, all of you.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past, who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine. Through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.